What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Face Mask Fantasy Thursday stream. Nick is not here with us today. He's on a trip right now. He's going to one of the Carolinas. I believe it's North Carolina. But he's traveling cross country from California all the way to the Carolinas, and not with us today. So I'm holding it down. You're stuck with me. But what's going on, Slim? What's going on, Slim? Next time this year, I'll be starting my fantasy analyst journey. Hey, man. All right. I like to hear that. Glad we can inspire you. Honestly, all y'all are an inspiration to us too. Y'all keep us going. So, yeah, man. Hey, keep grinding yourself. And depending on how that journey goes, bro, like, we might have you on a show to talk some fantasy with us at some point. So, but yeah, we in here today. Well, I am in here today. And today we are talking about what's going on, Rojo? Today we are talking about some stock down players, because we've often talked about players we like. It's easy to talk about players we like. It's easy to talk about players that are in a better position than they were, a few months ago, last year, whatever. But we got to be negative today. We got to be a little bit negative today with some of the players that we're bringing up. So I'm just going to get started. And as you guys have questions, just throw them in the chat. Once I'm done with one player, I have 4 listed here. I'll go to the chat, answer some questions, go back to this list that I have here, and then maybe towards the end of the stream, if we haven't run too long, we can do a mock with y'all. So let's get it started. Take a sip of water here. All right. First one I have here on my list is Treylon Burks. And I've talked a lot about Treylon Burks. I did a whole video. What's going on, Hunter? How you doing? I did a whole video on why Treylon Burks is not the next N'Keal Harry. The book is still out on that analysis. If you want to go check out that video, it is on our channel. But Burks has had some bad press lately. And a report just came out a few days ago. Maybe it was yesterday. That he was spotted having some breathing issues during rookie minicamp. And apparently he labored through pre-draft private workouts, which is something that did not drop right away. We did not know that until basically now. That would have been good news to have prior to the NFL draft. I don't know why they wait. I guess I know why they waited so long to let the general public know, but it does suck. It does suck because I drafted him pretty high in rookie drafts. I drafted him at the 3rd spot. Now, I had Garrett Wilson ahead of him, and I knew that other people in my league that I was drafting in liked Garrett Wilson a lot, so I took Burks, hoping that maybe somebody would want to trade up for Garrett Wilson. Didn't happen. Ended up taking Garrett Wilson at the 4th spot. But I'm having some buyer's remorse on Treylon Burks. I'm having some buyer's remorse on Treylon Burks. Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer recently reported that Burks labored through pre-draft workouts. On top of that, Titans head coach Mike Vrabel told reporters that Treylon Burks is, and this is a quote, unavailable for Titans minicamp. Not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear. Obviously, it's not what they want to be dealing with their first-round pick that they basically traded away their franchise wide receiver for. Their young franchise wide receiver. So, that's not great. That's not great news. On top of that, Burks did not take part in minicamp on Tuesday or Wednesday and also missed OTAs. So, I mean, he's dealing with something. We can only connect the dots that it's about this asthma that was reported on a few days ago. Really a week ago, not a few days ago. But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for everybody who drafted him without knowing that information. Now, asthma for high-level athletes, it's not a death knell. There have been many just athletes, not NFL athletes, but just athletes that have overcome having asthma. Jerome Bettis, NFL player, had asthma. Emmitt Smith, Hall of Fame NFL player, had asthma. In different sports, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Olympic athlete, Olympic runner, which is, if I was to say you had asthma and you were trying to be an Olympic runner, I'd say you had no chance. But she was one of the greatest. She had asthma. David Beckham, one of the most high-profile football or soccer, depending on where you're at in the world, players when I was a kid, when I was growing up, and he had asthma. Michael Phelps, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about this, but Michael Phelps had asthma. So we got two Olympic players here, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, not players, athletes, and Michael Phelps had asthma. Emmitt Smith, David Beckham, Jerome Bettis, they all managed to have great careers in whatever sport they were performing in with the asthma, and they were able to manage the symptoms and still perform. So it's not a death knell to Treylon Burks' value that he does have asthma. But it does mean that he needs to do all the little things. Those men and women that I just listed, Bettis, Joyner-Kersee, Smith, Emmitt Smith, David Beckham, Michael Phelps, they obviously did all the little things. No one ever went up to them in their prime outside of maybe Jerome Bettis, and we'll get there, and said, Michael Phelps looks a little chunky. Jackie Joyner-Kersee, I don't know if her conditioning is up to par. No one ever went into Emmitt Smith when he was on the Super Bowl run and said, that guy ain't in shape in his prime. So, maybe. And not even maybe. There's a decent chance there's still hope for Treylon Burks despite this asthma news. But it's just not what you want to hear. In conjunction with questions about his conditioning. In conjunction with the coaching staff saying he's not able to practice right now. That's not what you want to hear. Especially if you, like me, drafted Treylon Burks high. Now, we get to the disappointing part, because this would all be fine if he was doing the little things. But I don't know if any of y'all have seen the little Twitter videos, Instagram videos, the little Vines or whatever, if people are still using Vine, that just showed Treylon Burks going through reps in the part of OTAs and rookie minicamp that he was participating in. He looked a little, and this, pot calling the kettle black. I mean, I'm sitting here in my chair talking about an NFL player being a little out of shape. But Treylon Burks looked a little bit, and this might be a little bit of an exaggeration, or maybe even a lot of bit of an exaggeration. He looked a little Kelvin Benjamin-ish in those Instagram videos and in those Twitter videos. Yes, his feet looked good. but he wasn't, and he was fluid, but coming in and out of his breaks and just getting up to full speed, he looked a little out of shape. He looked like he was having some issues, and he didn't look svelte. I mean, he didn't look like he was coming in rocked up. Yeah, he's 6'2", I believe, 220 pounds, maybe 225 pounds. He didn't come in looking like an AJ Brown. He didn't come in looking like a DK Metcalf. He came in looking a little bit more like a Kelvin Benjamin. And I'm a little bit worried that this is the wide receiver version of a Zion Williamson. Somebody with a lot of talent who's just, for one reason or the other, not really taking care of his body the way he should, not managing his asthma or whatever, or anything else that he's dealing with to the extent that he should be to be performing at the highest level. It is a little bit worrisome, and I am having buyer's remorse on Treylon Burks, because at that point, only Drake London had gone for me in my drafts, and I could have had the pick of the litter. I could have had anybody, and I chose Treylon Burks because, no, Hunter, Treylon Burks is not Kelvin Benjamin. I was just saying, looking at the videos that were coming out on Instagram and Twitter, he didn't look like a rocked up 6 foot, 225 pounds like an AJ Brown did coming in, or I know DK is a little bit taller, but like a DK, he didn't look like, that dude's been in the gym, that dude's all muscle, that dude's been working out. We don't have to worry so much about the physical condition that he's coming in it with if he's missing some mini camp and OTA practices. He just looked a little chunky. Now, there's still 3 months left until the beginning of the NFL season, and he can get in shape. But he needs to be practicing to be able to do that. And he's not even practicing right now. And I know the coaching staff has to say all the right things and say, we're not really worried about where he's at right now. I'm worried about where he's at right now. I am having buyer's remorse on Treylon Burks. And one thing I gotta say is fantasy managers are way too high right now on Treylon Burks based on where he's being drafted. Treylon Burks, I believe, has an ADP of he's the wide receiver 38. Going off boards as the wide receiver 38 in drafts. And I get it. If his conditioning was all on point and he was really just coming in, taking all the AJ Brown reps and all the AJ Brown work and doing work with those reps, and with that role, that would be warranted. And honestly, drafting him at wide receiver 38 might be drafting him at his floor. But right now, I think that's a little bit high for considering that he isn't even being he can't even practice right now. He can't even practice right now. So a lot of time till the NFL season. A lot of things to shake out and work out with respect to Treylon Burks. But I am worried about the asthma, about his conditioning coming into his first season in the NFL, and whether or not he can be a full-time player on the Tennessee offense, which he needs to be to to validate people drafting him as high as they are in redraft and Dynasty or whatever. He needs to perform. And I'm having some real questions about whether or not he's going to be able to do so. But that's my spiel about Treylon Burks. Let's get to this chat. See what's going on. What's going on, Hunter, again? What's going on, Rojo? Hey, man. That might be something. Obviously, I'm going to have to talk to Nick about having some of y'all as guests on the show one day. But that would be fun for us, too. And I know y'all members, y'all get that direct access to us with the one-on-ones and you will even more so moving forward with the leagues that we're going to be creating for y'all members. And it's real nice to be able to, in the one-on-ones, get some real FaceTime with you guys, and having you guys on one of these public live streams or something is something that me and Nick would have to talk about, but it's definitely a conversation that we can have moving forward. But always good to have you in the chat. Always good to have you in the chat. And yeah, Slim, I agree. It's a major concern. And I'm sorry, you got to deal with asthma yourself. But he can still be good. He can. I listed off a bunch of high-profile athletes, not just NFL players, but athletes who managed their asthma throughout their career, and it didn't stop them from being Hall of Fame athletes, level athletes at whatever sport they performed at. So he can still be good. He can still be good. He's not... I feel like this is going to come back to bite me in the butt. He's not Kelvin Benjamin. He gave me Kelvin Benjamin vibes watching some videos on him. That's all. That's all. And I would appreciate it very much if we would be able to get some astrology analysis on Treylon Burks, Slim. We need that help. But User Nerd, good to see you. What do you think about Ramondre Stevenson this year? Do you think if he plays all games, he can be a starter and a high-end RB2? Now, what a coincidence it is that you bring up Ramondre Stevenson, because on this list, as the next player I have to go over, I got Damian Harris. And as a byproduct of talking about Damian Harris, we're going to talk about Ramondre Stevenson. But before I get to Damian Harris, do I think that Ramondre Stevenson this is a playable fantasy asset this year? Absolutely. It's not often that we see Bill Belichick give a rookie running back a lot of run, especially when they have an incumbent in a pretty solidified role. Ramondre Stevenson had 132 carries last year. That's not something that many rookie running backs can say. Excuse me, rookie running backs can say who got drafted by the Patriots, who played for Bill Belichick. And Ramondre Stevenson was good last year. Now, the only thing, as far as question marks, that I have written underneath Ramondre Stevenson is the presence of Pierre Strong, the presence of James White, who's still there, and the presence of Kevin Harris to a certain extent. So they got 5 people in their backfield right now. And they could very well go into the season with 5 running backs. Now, again, Bill Belichick likes to not play rookie running backs all that much. We saw it a little bit with Sony Michel. We saw it with Harris, where he literally had a redshirt freshman season as his first year in the NFL. Running backs like J.J. Taylor still haven't even seen the field. It was a real surprise that Ramondre Stevenson got as many carries as he did last year. And while some of that might have to do with the fact that James White was out all season last year, Ramondre did work. For the role that he was in, Ramondre did work. So, despite that, yes, he did work. This is a committee backfield, so you have to temper your expectations. A high-end RB2 in 2022, I think that's asking a little bit much for Ramondre Stevenson. I think he can be a mid-tier to high-end RB3 this year. But where I'm looking at Ramondre Stevenson's real value in Dynasty, at least, is in 2023, because it looks like Damian Harris is not going to be locked up with an extension. It looks like with the drafting of Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, that Damian Harris might not be long for New England. It might be the Ramondre Stevenson, Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris show as soon as 2023. So I'm not really looking at Ramondre Stevenson in 2022 as somebody who can explode onto the scene as a high-end RB2. But in 2023, I think he might be given the shot I think he might be given the chance to be their RB1, which could result in him being a high-end RB2 if he continues to show the efficiency that he has through his first season, over this next season, and into the future. So I like Ramondre more than I thought I would for somebody who I thought coming out was more of a plotter. But he showed some things in his rookie season. And he impressed the coaching staff enough for them to give him a sizable role in that offense, which is rare for rookie running backs. So I like Ramondre, not expecting a lot in 2022. 2023 is where he could shine. But here's where we talk about Damian Harris. He had 15 touchdowns on 203 carries last season. That's a touchdown every 13 rushes. Every 13 rushes on the ground, he was scoring a touchdown, which is pretty insane efficiency. Now, conventional wisdom would have you think that, okay, that's probably going to come down a little bit. Maybe not all the way to the league average, but closer to the league average. And remember last year, different quarterback or the year before last year with Cam Newton, completely different quarterback situation. Cam Newton was vulturing a lot of goal line rushes, a lot of goal line touches, but I believe he finished with only 2 touchdowns. I don't expect him to finish anywhere close to 2 touchdowns in 2022. But 15 touchdowns on 203 carries last season, expecting him to replicate that is a tall task. I don't think he does. I think he'd be lucky to get around 10. On top of that, he only had 23 receptions in the last 2 years, and one of those years was with James White out for the entire season. And Ramondre Stevenson is there and had 132 carries last year as a rookie, which should earn him more touches in 2022. So Damian Harris, who should see a scaled back amount of targets thrown his way and should come back to the mean or the average in terms of touchdowns per touch, is far from a value wherever he's being drafted. And again, Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, both on the squad. James White brought back. And Damian Harris right now is being drafted in the 5th round. That's too high for me. In the last 21 seasons, the Patriots have had 4 1,000-yard rushers. 4 in 21 seasons. Now, a lot of that has to do with Tom Brady and them airing it out as much as they have. But a lot of that also has to do with the philosophy of the coaching staff. They have long used a running back by committee approach in New England, even before that was a thing that coaching staffs really started to do to keep everybody fresh. They were really the first team to really use a running back by committee and to really have a pure pass catching back and a pure goal line back and then somebody that can do it all. They were the first. And because of that, over the last 21 seasons, the Patriots have only had 4 1,000-yard rushers. LeGarrette Blount, in 2016, had 1,161 yards on 299 rushes, while playing with James White and Dion Lewis. Stephon Ridley, had 1,263 yards on 290 rushes in 2012. And that was with Shane Vereen and Danny Woodhead. BenJarvus Green-Ellis, 1,008 yards on 229 rushes in 2010, with only Danny Woodhead as the real competition. Kevin Falk was there too. And Corey Dillon in 2004 had 1,635 yards on 345 rushes, with only Kevin Falk there. And Damian Harris last season, in a 15-touchdown season, had only 203 carries. and they brought in more competition, and Ramondre Stevenson should see more work than he did as a rookie. And James White's still there. Now, James White could get cut, but honestly, that would be a little bit of a surprise to me considering the lack of pass catchers in this offense. And on top of that, all the reports are on Mac Jones is that he's going to be passing more. They want to unleash Mac Jones to a certain extent because they thought as a rookie, and rightfully so, that he was a lot better than people thought he was going to be. And by all accounts, in the offseason, he really worked on the finer aspects of being an NFL professional. Came in a lot stronger. So I mean, Mac Jones is going to be passing more. Mac Jones is going to be asked to do more with his arm. And considering Damian Harris doesn't catch passes, that does not bode well for Damian Harris. He's not getting more than 203 carries. I currently have Damian Harris as a keeper in a keeper league, as a keeper in the 10th round. And even there, I know he's being drafted in the 5th, and I can get him in the 10th. That should be a value. But I still almost don't want any part of it. I still almost don't want any part of it. Damian Harris is a huge fade for me in 2022. And it's not because he's not talented, because I believe he is. But the situation that he's playing in 2022 on the Patriots is downright terrible for his value. Can he approach 203 touches next year or carries next year? Sure. The touchdowns are probably going to come down. Again, he scored a touchdown on every 13 rushes on the ground. And he doesn't catch passes. And there's so much more competition for him this year than there was last year. Literally, the only other back in the backfield was Ramondre Stevenson last year. And now there's 4 other guys, including him. So Damian Harris, huge fade for me. He is a stock down player for me for sure. More of a sure thing stock down player for me than Treylon Burks, because Treylon can overcome his asthma issues, as Slim alluded to. But I don't see any way that Damian Harris overcomes all the issues that he has, or all the issues that he has stacked up against him this year. It'll be really tough for him to exceed expectations or even meet them. So that's a little worrisome with me for Damian Harris. And he's been a guy that I have liked. I don't know if I'm going to have Damian Harris on any of my teams next year. Got to be real. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about Damian Harris this year? What do you guys think about Treylon Burks this year? Do you guys have any stock down players that you guys want to talk about? Do you have any questions about any other guys like Ramondre Stevenson that you're a little worried about going into 2022 and just want to ask if they're going to be a high-end player this year? Try to answer your questions as best as possible. But again, Nick is not here today. Nick is traveling to the Carolinas, so we're without him today. He will be back next week, so we'll be back at full strength next week. But consider Nick on short-term IR for this week. And because none of y'all are throwing anything in this chat, I'm going to just move on to this next player. And it's a player that we talked about a couple of times this offseason. And you might be sick of us kind of crapping on this guy's value. And that's Deebo Samuel. Now, the stock down for Deebo Samuel is nowhere near as much of a stock down as it is for Treylon Burks and Damian Harris. Deebo Samuel still has a solid bet to be a wide receiver 1. And he is a solid bet to at least be a high-end wide receiver 2. But he finished as the wide receiver 2 last year. And I see no way in which he finishes anywhere close to that. First thing is, he's one of the most injury-prone players, wide receivers in the NFL. Last year was his only healthy season in the NFL. And in 2017, he broke a fibula and was out for the season. 2020, he had a Jones fraction, was out for the season. And then in 2021, he led the league in yards per carry. And we talked about this last time we was talking about our wide receivers. So this was Tuesday. In 2021, he led the league in yards per carry with 18.2. Running backs, we consider running backs good if they have above 4.8 yards per carry. 18.2. And he had 8 rushing TDs, most by any wide receiver ever in the season. And through week 17, Deebo Samuel had more rushing touchdowns of 10 plus yards, not just rushing touchdowns, but rushing touchdowns of 10 plus yards with 5, and that was more than 23 NFL teams. Trey Lance is going to be the quarterback this year. It should obviously lead to more rushing attempts than under Jimmy G. Deebo is technically still a wide receiver 1 by value. On talent alone, he deserves that ranking. But his situation, I'm not going to say it's terrible, but it's not great. It's not great. He wants his rushing touches capped. He threatened that he didn't want to be on the team anymore if they weren't going to treat him like a wide receiver and wanted to continue to treat him like a dual threat weapon. He's not going to be rushing the way he was last year. And again, 18.2 yards per carry and 8 rushing touchdowns for a wide receiver. The injury concerns for Deebo Samuel are very real. Let us not forget, Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse for the first 6 games of last season. 6 to 7 games of last season. And through that stretch of games, Deebo Samuel was lighting the world on fire. Kittle is still there and due for a slight bounce back in his own right. Deebo, Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell is there. TDP is there, so they doubled down on running back 2 years in a row. Drafted 2 last year, drafted another one this year because they couldn't count on anything from Trey Sermon. And if Trey Lance comes to early career Josh Allen, which is what everybody has said since the day that he was drafted, Josh Allen had 320 attempts through the air in year 1. He upped that to 461 attempts in year 2. And last year, Jimmy G had 441 attempts. And we all expect less passing from Lance than we had with Jimmy. So you take away 40 rushing attempts from that offense, or 40 passing attempts from that offense. He could be looking at around 400 passing attempts for the entire offense. Which means, unless Deebo continues to do it on insane efficiency and continues to get the rushing attempts that he got last year, he's going to take a step back. Now, he is one of the most electric wide receivers in the NFL. But if you just took away his rushing production from last year, he would not have finished wide receiver 2. He might have finished as a high-end wide receiver 1 or a low-end wide receiver 1. Maybe closer to a high-end wide receiver 2. And if he takes any step back in overall efficiency, he's going to be a wide receiver 2 this season. Deebo Samuel scares me, man. He just does. If he doesn't have the rushing upside to buoy his weekly value and doesn't turn a short catch into a touchdown, he's going to have a dud week, which is something he almost didn't have last year at all. I've been a proponent of selling Deebo in Dynasty. We brought it up here on a hot take show early in the offseason. And nothing has dissuaded me about that take since. I'm not going to have any Debo in redraft. And I don't have any Debo in Dynasty. If I had Debo in Dynasty, I'd be trying to sell high off of that wide receiver 2 overall value that he gave us last year, because I think he's going to be closer to wide receiver 12 this year. In our wide receiver rankings, I believe Nick had Debo at wide receiver 9, and I think I had him at wide receiver 8. And even that feels a little bit high for Debo. And I'm just down on his value. I am. I'm worried about Debo. But that's my take on Debo this year. Slim, you wanted to know about Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders feels like the opposite of a stock down. His stock might not be up, but it should. It should. That offense got better with the addition of A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts should take a step forward in his second full season as a starter, in a make or break year for him. And Miles Sanders, I think this is the right stat. Miles Sanders had no touchdowns last year. And that has to change. I don't care how good Kenny Golladay is, or Kenny Gainwell is. I don't care that Boston Scott is still there. The team did not resign Jordan Howard. So they technically are in need of a goal line running back, which should be Miles Sanders based on his resume. And I know there's a chance that another running back in the backfield vultures his touchdowns or vultures his goal line work to a certain extent, and Jalen Hurts is there as a rushing quarterback in his own right. But Miles Sanders should be scoring more touchdowns than 0 touchdowns. Straight up. I think Miles Sanders is technically a buy, because this is the lowest Miles Sanders' value has ever been. 2 years ago, people were treating Miles Sanders like people are treating Travis Etienne right now. Like people were treating Javonte Williams before the Melvin Gordon signing. People had Miles Sanders up real high in the rankings. Maybe not wide running back 4, but still, he was considered to be a top 8, top 10 running back as soon as a few years ago. And a few years of disappointing usage and injury issues has relegated him to, low-end running back 2 value. But I think he is, by talent alone, a high-end running back 2. The offense got better. He should score some touchdowns this year. No Jordan Howard. No change in the offense, so he's not going from one offense to the other, one scheme to the other. I like Miles Sanders this year, Slim. I do. I like Miles Sanders a lot. Now, I've sold Miles Sanders in most of the leagues I'm in, but that has to do with me being in a rebuild more than me not believing in Miles Sanders. I really do think Miles Sanders is going to have a bounce back year. And it really has been like a bad luck thing with him. Because, for 2 straight years, he's gotten injured. And then the team just had so many running backs, was using other running backs instead of him. They had a rushing quarterback. The offense wasn't all that great, and he scored no touchdowns. So, I like Miles Sanders. And he's almost a target for me. He's almost a target for me in redraft. And if I'm a contender and I'm one running back away, I'm looking at the Miles Sanders owner like, hey, what's it going to take for me to buy Miles Sanders? Because it's for the value that you're getting on your team, you're probably not going to have to give up equitable value to get him. So I like Miles Sanders. And Hunter, I would be surprised if Damian Harris got traded mid-season, but I would not be surprised at all if and I expect him to not be on the team next season. But a mid-season trade for a team that is technically trying to compete as much as they can in a somewhat reloaded division, I don't think they're going to be getting rid of the good players. And honestly, outside of Mac Jones, who's the best player on that offense? It's Damian Harris. It is. It's not Ramondre. It's not any of the wide receivers. It's not Devontae Parker. It's not Tyquan Thornton. It's not Kendrick Bourne. It's not Jacoby Brissett. It's not either of the tight ends and Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith for sure. It's Damian Harris. He's the second best player on that offense, not including O-line. I'm talking skill position players. So I don't know if they would trade him mid-season. I just don't know if that happens. But Saquon, up or down with new head coach? I think it's up. I like Saquon a lot. Nick was really the person to kind of initiate the sea change with me with respect to Saquon Barkley. I was coming into the offseason a little bit down, and I was looking at the new head coach and front office combination like, hey, they never had a number one running back in Buffalo. And honestly, they moved away from having a number one running back because when they signed on with the team, LaShawn McCoy was still there, and they let LaShawn McCoy go. They did not re-up with LaShawn McCoy in the twilight of his career. Now, that might have had a lot to do with the fact that he was getting up there in age, but they didn't try to replace him with a workhorse. So I was looking at Saquon like, what if this team initiates a little bit more of a committee like they had in Buffalo with Saquon? And in hindsight, that take was real dumb. And I'm glad Nick slapped some sense into me with respect to Saquon. Saquon could be a league winner based on where he's being drafted, because you can draft him for the first time in redraft at his floor. For the most part, we've been drafting Saquon Barkley at his ceiling year in, year out, because of the talent that's that he possesses and the heights that we saw from him in year one. I think he had something like 994 catches on top of like 300 rushes. His usage in his rookie season was insane, and we've been chasing that every year, and he's done nothing but disappoint us because he's been picking up injuries, and frankly, the coaching staff hasn't done him any favors. The head coach switch to Brian Daboll bodes well for him because, frankly, it's not Joe Judge. It's a guy that I believe has a good track record in the NFL of knowing what he's doing and how to optimize the game plan to play to the strengths of his roster. And the strength of that roster right now is Saquon Barkley. It is. It's not Daniel Jones. It's not Kenny Golladay. It's not Wan'Dale or Kadarius. Speaking of, Kadarius is the next and last person I'm going to be talking about from my stock down. But Saquon's the best player on that team. Hands down. And they're going to use him as such. And by all accounts, he's finally healthy. And he's now a year removed from the season-ending injury. More than a year removed because, yeah, I mean, he played last year, got banged up in the middle of the season, but he's fully removed from that and the season-ending injuries that he had the year before that. So it's kind of Saquon to the moon. You don't know if Barkley is worth $75 to keep on your team. How much fab do you have to spend? Is it like a $400 allocation? Who are the other players that you can keep? Put the whole situation into the chat and we can have a little bit of a discussion about it. But I like Saquon a lot. There's a chance that by the end of the year, he is vaulted right back up into top 3 conversation as far as the running backs go as soon as next year. And again, that whole offense should improve because they're going to be getting in a new quarterback that isn't Daniel Jones, which means Saquon might be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with in 2023. So, yeah, I like Saquon a lot. What's going on, CXK? How you doing? What's going on, The Objective? is the play with Jacobs, and I assume that's Josh Jacobs, to wait until the season starts to sell. It feels like there is never a sell window, despite him doing nothing but produce throughout his career. Yes, the time to sell a running back, a number one running back, is always in season if you're worried about the general consensus on his value. Because when do fantasy owners need running backs? In season. And right now, everybody's going to point to, oh, they didn't re-up him with his fifth-year option. They have no intention of keeping him around. And they just drafted Zamir White. They still have Kenyon Drake. They still have Brandon Bolden. They had Kenyon Drake and Brandon and last season. They didn't have Brandon Bolden, but expecting Brandon Bolden to come in and do anything is kind of crazy. He is a special teamer who had more run than predicted last year because James White was out. And Josh McDaniels brought him in because he's a veteran presence that he needs and a special teamer and a locker room guy. Brandon Bolden isn't going to see touches. And last year, Kenyon Drake played 12 weeks and wasn't that much of a detractor from Josh Jacobs' value. Now, Zamir White being there is a little bit worrisome, but he doesn't catch passes. So where he's going to detract from Josh Jacobs' value is on the goal line. That said, once injuries start to pile up for anybody in your league, you can hit him up and say, hey, you interested in Jacobs? And at that point, you're going to get the highest value for him. You're not going to get the highest value right now. And that goes for a lot of running backs. The time to sell a running back is in the middle of the season. It just is. And no worry, yo. No worries. It's all good. But yeah, I would wait until the season starts. See if he can put together a few good weeks. See if anybody just goes through the ringer with respect to running back injuries, and you can sell him off to the owner that's trying to keep afloat with, like, I don't know, Damian Harris as their RB1. But thanks for the question, The Objective. Appreciate you. Slim, who's the running back to own in Buffalo for redraft? This is a tough question. For redraft, I think it's Devin Singletary. I do. He's the forgotten man. He's one of the best values at the running back position in the entire NFL right now. The team doesn't like Zach Moss. The team drafted James Cook. Yes, I understand that. But I think that was more for his future prospects than it is for his immediate prospects. Again, he has a BMI of in the 8th percentile, which is frankly terrible. You look for running backs to have higher BMIs so they can withstand the punishment that they get playing every down or every other down in the NFL for a full 16, 17 game season. James Cook is not built for that right now. And his role should be the clear pass catching down specialist for the Bills. He's not going to be on the goal line. That's going to be Devin Singletary. We've talked about it for a few years with Josh Allen. Yes, he is one of the premier rushing quarterbacks in the NFL and has insane goal line upside for scoring touchdowns. He has more rushing touchdowns through the years that he's been in the NFL than Christian McCaffrey. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that CMC has been injured over the past few seasons, but still, that's a crazy stat to just spit out there. Over the past 3 seasons, he has more rushing touchdowns than Christian McCaffrey. But in the effort to keep him healthy, which is something that the coaching staff and the front office has talked about a lot, they want to eventually, then over the course of the next few seasons, continuously scale back the amount of touches he's getting on the ground to contribute to his longevity over the course of his career. Because he's been compared to prime Cam Newton a lot. I think he's better than Cam Newton as a passer. But the last thing I want to see as a Bills fan and just a fan of the NFL is Josh Allen picking up a shoulder injury for a few seasons in a row like Cam Newton was dealing with, and him becoming a shell of himself by age 32. I want to see Josh Allen play until he's 40. Like Tom Brady, like Aaron Rodgers is trying to do, like Phillip Rivers almost did. I want to see him get into the late 30s and still be playing at a high level. And that is not going to happen if he continues to perform as their de facto goal line running back and short yardage running back. He's going to continue to do it because that's just part of his skill set and that's just how he plays. But the team is going to try to scheme back and scale back those touches. And I think for this season, that means that work goes to a Devin Singletary, who did well with that last year. No one's ever going to say he's the most talented running back in the NFL or even close to it, but he can get it done. When given enough touches, he can get it done. He's efficient. He's been a good yards per carry player over the course of his career. He's far from explosive. And that's another reason that they brought in James Cook. But I think the running back to own in Buffalo for redraft for the 2022 season is Devin Singletary. They're probably not going to re-up him, which is why they sunk second-round draft capital into James Cook. He's in a career year, or a contract year. So they're going to run him into the ground and say peace. So to me, I think the running back to own in Buffalo is Devin Singletary. Should you expect high-end RB2 use value by the end of the season? No. He's more of a mid-tier RB2 to low-end RB2 because his touchdown upside is capped because of the presence of Josh Allen, and he's probably not going to be catching as many passes because of the presence of James Cook. But if you're looking for the running back who's going to be, at the end of the season, the running back with the most fantasy points in the Buffalo backfield, it's going to be Devin Singletary. And I would put money on it. Already have in some best balls. So, yeah, don't be afraid of Devin Singletary. And if you are, go back and look at what he did over the last, I want to say, 4 to 6 games last year when they found out that they couldn't rely on Zach Moss, tried the Matt Breida experiment, and that didn't work. And then they went to Devin Singletary full-time. He was very good in fantasy. Probably won't replicate those numbers, but could come close. Could come close. And yo, CXK, you are very welcome. I know I have not been as active in the Discord as I should be lately. Nick has been holding it down, so respect to Nick. And yeah, it's been a difficult, like, I want to say month and a half between us both having weddings to attend and then both catching COVID at the same time because we attended the same wedding, and then going to a wedding after that after we had tested negative and all that, and then getting back into the groove of things. And then as soon as that happened, I gave my 2 weeks notice for my my day job because I got a new job. So I had to work double time to set them up so that they weren't left hanging with me leaving. And now with starting a new job, I just got a lot going on. But I'm gonna really try to get back into the swing of things with bringing y'all content and with just sticking with y'all on the Discord. So I appreciate y'all being active on the Discord for sure. And Hunter, you got Kyler, you got Deshaun, you got Jefferson, Tyreek, Najee, Kittle, Barkley, Derrick Henry. To keep 5 players, it would cost 160. Yo, me too, Rojo. Me too. Trust me. That's the plan, and like that's our 10-year plan. That's our 10-year plan. So hopefully we're trending in the right direction with that. But amen to that, dude. And thank you, CXK. I appreciate it. I'm pretty excited about it too. But to keep 5 players, it would be 160. And I'm guessing those 5 players that you have in mind would be Kyler, Jefferson, Najee, Barkley. Are you trying to keep Tyreek? Are you trying to keep Kittle or Henry? Who are the 5 that you're thinking of keeping? And who's the 6? Who's that swing guy that you're like on the fence about? Because Jefferson's definitely a keep. Kyler's definitely a keep. Najee's definitely a keep. And honestly, I think Barkley's definitely a keep. Derrick Henry is... I know we're not the biggest fan of Derrick Henry long term. But he's going to get so much work this year. Because we just got finished talking about Treylon Burks. And if Treylon Burks... fails to fire in year 1 due to the conditioning issues and just be the byproduct of being a rookie wide receiver in the NFL. We've been spoiled recently by phenomenal rookie seasons by Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. It doesn't happen all the time. So with respect to Treylon Burks possibly not firing in year 1, that would mean that Derrick Henry is gonna is going to have even more of an emphasis put on him, more of a workload put on him to perform, because outside of Treylon Burks, who do they have there? Robert Woods, who's coming off his own ACL tear, and another rookie in Kyle Phillips. So you got Kyler, Jefferson. You want to keep Tyreek, okay? He should still be a low-end wide receiver 1, but if you were... I mean, you heard us go off on Tyreek in the Tuesday stream. I mean, I would not keep Watson. Watson would be off my list altogether. There's no guarantee he's playing. I would hate to spend valuable keeper money, keeper bucks on Watson and see him be suspended the entire year. So Kyler, Jefferson, Tyreek, Najee, Henry, Barkley. I know Watson is a top 5 fantasy quarterback when on the field, and he's only 26, but I would just rather go for a lower upside player that is guaranteed to be, if health cooperates, playing all season, than somebody who it looks like right now is going to be suspended for an entire year, maybe more. Maybe more. Because Nick and I have spoken about it a lot. If the NFL should, they don't always do the right thing, obviously, but should throw the book at Deshaun Watson to make a statement. I have never seen in pretty much my entire career of being a fan of the NFL and sports, I've never seen a situation like what Deshaun Watson is facing legally. I don't want him as a keeper, and I would recommend that you should stay far away from him in redraft leagues. Because even with his depressed value right now, even if he's going later in drafts than he should, and he has all the upside in the world, I don't want to waste a pick in the 8th round or the 9th round or whatever on Watson. I just don't. So I would go with those other guys, Hunter. I would, and I would forget about Watson. But I would feel real good about going into the season with Kyler Murray, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Najee Harris, and Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley as keepers on my squad. I would feel like I would be the favorite to win because those are all great players to have. But anybody else got any more questions? Throw them in the chat. We are going to get to the last player that I had listed in my stock down list. And then we've only been going for an hour, so I think we can fit in a mock draft. So let me get into this last player. Put some more questions in the chat as you have them. I'll answer them after this last player, and then we'll throw up the I'll throw the mock draft link in the chat, and y'all can join me for a quick draft before I sign off. But the last player that I have here is Kadarius Toney. He's recovering from off-season knee surgery. He missed voluntary OTAs earlier this month after undergoing a knee scope. There were off-season rumors that the Giants were shopping Kadarius Toney 1 year after drafting him, albeit in a different regime, coaching regime, front office, but shopping Toney because they were concerned with how healthy he is, as knee scopes can be precursors to future injury woes. Not always. Lots of times it is just a cleanup, and that does the job. But lots of times these little procedures, especially with players early in their career, can point to just future issues down the road. Toney is attending off-season workouts, but he wasn't cleared to practice yet. And just to throw a little positive note in his corner, the Giants do expect him to be ready for training camp. But remember, Toney had one 13-target game last year in Week 5 where he had an insane 189 rush yards, and he had one rush for 7 yards. But outside of that one game, he pretty much did absolutely nothing the entire season. In Week 12, he had another opportunity to go bonkers. He had 12 targets. He ended up with 7 receptions for 40 scoreless yards on 12 targets. That's not good. You don't need me to tell you that. That's just not good. He flashed once, and that was with Kenny Golladay being a decoy basically all season. That was with Sterling Shepard not being available. That was with Saquon not being prime Saquon in 2021. And now there's a new coaching staff, new front office, new GM Joe Sheen and Coach Brian Daboll have zero attachment to Toney. He was a Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge pick. And early in the offseason, new Giants head coach Brian Daboll told reporters that Kadarius Toney is not at voluntary minicamp and has not yet received a playbook. And you would think a rookie wide receiver coming off a generally troubled but promising year one with a new head coach would try to endear themselves to that head coach and coaching staff. And it looked like early in the offseason, Kadarius Toney was doing the opposite. Now, Kadarius Toney still has some cachet because he was just drafted in the first round a year ago, and people still go googly-eyed over that one 13-target game in Week 5 where he had 189 yards. But the upside, I have trouble seeing the upside for Kadarius Toney. He was compared to a Tyreek Hill light coming into the league. He showed very little of that. And I know, Slim, you're saying he's back and has a playbook and he's getting up to speed. But just the fact that he was there a few months ago with a new coaching staff and putting self-imposed roadblocks in front of him getting up to speed on the new offense that was being installed. Because he could have attended off-season workouts, not played because he got the knee scope, but still attended and had his nose in the books or on the iPad or whatever they're using to install new playbooks these days. But he wasn't. And yes, he eventually got into the facilities and reported and everything now points to him having his head on straight. But it's like once you combine the dots with everything going on with Kadarius Toney, only firing once last year as a rookie, with barely any target competition the entire season. I know he had to deal with some bad quarterback play from not only Daniel Jones, but Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. I know that. But something about Kadarius Toney just has me a little bit worried. It does. He strikes me as somebody who is going to be thought of as more of a bust, a first-round bust in a few years. They just drafted Wan'Dale Robinson, so and Wan'Dale Robinson, he's like a 5'7", he's like a Rondale Moore type prospect. And frankly, he should operate in the areas where the team probably drafted Kadarius Toney to operate last season, which means Kadarius Toney is going to be playing on the outside. I don't know if he's a fit to be on the outside. So the presence of Wan'Dale Robinson there scares me just probably more for Kadarius Toney's outlook in the near future than anything that I mentioned before Wan'Dale Robinson even. And I think Sterling Shepard is still there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he's still there. And Sterling Shepard, I mean, say what you will about his ability to stay healthy. When he's on the field, he contributes. He's at least a wide receiver 3 every single time he's on the field. So, like, where's people, and the coaching staff was talking about going back to old Lions footage and looking at what Kenny Golladay did well to see how they can maximize him. Where's the work for Kadarius Toney? Where's Kadarius Toney going to be commanding 13 and 12 target games next season? I just don't think it's going to happen. And considering that's where what a lot of people point to when they talk about the possible value on Kadarius Toney moving into the 2022 season and beyond, like I'm at the point where I'm steering clear. I'm at the point where I'm steering clear. Even in Dynasty, I have one share of him. Had 2 shares of him because for some reason in 1 QB leagues, you were able to get Kadarius Toney in the top of the 3rd round last year, as a rookie, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm pretty much all the way off Kadarius Toney. The athleticism is there, but there's a lot of concerns about his value moving forward. So I'm a little worried with respect to Kadarius Toney. That is the last person that I had on my list. Again, I started it off with Treylon Burks and the asthma issues that he was dealing with, and the news that came out that he labored through pre-draft workouts and was unavailable for minicamp and did not take part in OTAs. That all scares me about Treylon Burks. The next person we talked about was Damian Harris, who was due for some pretty insane positive or negative touchdown regression. Again, 15 touchdowns on 203 carries last season. He scored a touchdown on every 13 rushes, which is pretty insane. That efficiency is going to drop. They drafted 2 running backs. James White's coming back into the fold. Ramondre Stevenson is still there, and frankly, based off of what he did in year 1, should have more of a role in year 2. So all that points to Damian Harris being a little bit of a sell for me. Deebo Samuel, it stock down. He's not a sell, or he is a sell. In Dynasty, he's a sell. Stock down. I don't think his value is going to fall a ton, but it is going to fall. There's nowhere. I don't see any way in which he finishes as wide receiver 2 in 2022. Like he finished in 2021. And the last person here, Kadarius Toney. So that wraps up the list that I had. What's going on, Alex? What's going on, J-Dubs? And yeah, Hunter, show me the main competitor. Let me know. Throw it in the chat. And J-Dubs, should shop Jones? What do you mean by that? Julio Jones? Are we talking about Jones at all? Clarify that comment. And Slim, I don't think anybody's high on CEH. He almost made my list. If I was going to add one more person to my list, it would have been CEH. It would have. Ronald Jones, while he hasn't been the greatest running back in the world by any assumption, I believe he's a better pure rusher than Darrell Williams, who at times ate into CEH's workload last year. CEH is a smaller back, can't stand up to goal line work, and got banged up last year, which led to Damian Williams playing a full-time role in some games, and even Derek Gore coming in and looking good as the third stringer behind him. They just re-signed Jerick McKinnon, so it was thought that some of the vacated roles would open up more work for CEH. I don't see that happening because CEH, Rojo, Jerick McKinnon, Derek Gore. I know there's going to be some targets to go around with Tyreek out of that offense. But I don't know if CEH is the guy that's going to be picking up a lot of that work. They brought in MVS, gave him a ton of money. They brought in Juju, who has a 1,400-yard season under his belt and should play out of the slot, which means a lot of that short to intermediate pass game work goes to him. A lot of that short to intermediate pass game work is absolutely going to be funneled to Kelsey. I don't see a lot of pass game work for CEH, which was what he was brought in to do. People were going crazy over, hey, the Brian Westbrook comps. He's the new pass catching running back for Andy Reid. That's never coming to fruition. He's not a pass catching back. He's not a goal line back. So what is he? He's just a young running back with age on his side and basically nothing else. Basically, the only thing you can point to with CEH is the fact that he's 23 going on 24 and plays in a Patrick Mahomes offense. Neither of those things have anything to do about the talent that he brings to the table. And that's worrisome for me. He's not a good rusher, and we just haven't seen enough from him as a pass catcher, on top of the fact that there are many other more capable pass catchers in this offense. I just don't see much of a role for him. He's going to be used, but it will probably end up with him being in the RB3 conversation. So, yeah, I'm with you. Not high on CEH either. Alex, once again, what's going on? And Hunter, your main competition is keeping Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, Kelsey, CMC, and A.J. Brown. That is rough. That's tough to go up against. But if there is one team, if there is one collection of players that I would say has a chance against that team, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Kyler Murray, on a points per game basis, is a better fantasy quarterback than Josh Allen. He's the only one in the league, only quarterback in the league who, on a points per game basis, when healthy, is a better fantasy quarterback than Josh Allen. Just inching him out. But he is. Now, your competitor has a stack with Diggs, so that hurts. She has one of the most high-profile stacks you can get in fantasy football this year. And on top of that, he's got Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 1. Now, the only wide receiver I think who can make Cooper Kupp wide receiver 2 is going to be on your team in Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is both Nick and my wide receiver 1 for 2022. So that bodes well in your favor. If there's one guy that can inch out Kupp, it's Justin Jefferson. I mean, you got Najee and Henry, but he has Jonathan Taylor and CMC. So it's almost a wash. It's almost a tie, but I would give your competitor the edge there. Andy has like the best tight end of all time in Kelsey. The only player I don't love of the players that he's keeping or projected to be keeping based on the players you listed here, AJ Brown. Don't love AJ Brown for 2022 for a variety of reasons. So the collection of players that you have, you go 6 deep at players that I like. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He goes 6-2. AJ Brown's just thrown in there. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but any given Sunday with Kyler Murray, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, I think you got a chance. Stay away from Watson. Trust me. And I'm going to show this comment here by Scott Sharp. For some reason, YouTube flagged it. But I would have to agree wholeheartedly. Now, Watson's accusations, there were no accusations of rape. That would be a whole lot more damning, for sure. But, I mean, sexual assault offense is absolutely. He's got 26 of them now. Shouldn't be laughing. I'm sorry. But, I mean, no matter what, I agree with you, Scott. No matter what. And, yeah, regardless of what happens, man, the optics there are just terrible. He had, what, like 40-something masseuses in basically a month and a half period? All I know is he was averaging, and this is the numbers that we know, he was averaging 3.88 new masseuses per month or per week. I think it might have been per week, which is, yeah, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. Basically, Scott, I agree with you. CXK Dynasty 12 team Superflex. I have literally nobody at tight end. Should I trade away Kadarius Toney for Trey McBride? I think I would shoot higher than Trey McBride. I like Trey McBride though. Like I just don't know if his upside is insane. I just don't know if his upside is, top 6 tight end in the league. I think his upside is to finish around tight end 10, tight end 12 year in, year out. Now, trading away Kadarius Toney for that guy is equitable value. I would just try to trade Toney for... I would even attach a pick to that and try to get a little bit, just a better tight end prospect than McBride. But if you just want a... who else do you have at tight end? Do you have anybody else, like developmental guys? Because that would factor in here. I would say if you try to trade Toney to like the Mo Alley Cox owner and get a pick thrown in. Or try to trade Toney to the Gerald Everett owner and get a pick thrown in. I like Trey McBride. I don't think his upside is what a lot of people think it is. And I think you're paying for the fact that he's a young rookie with youth on his side. But if you're looking for somebody for this season, I mean, Trey McBride has to compete with Zach Ertz, incumbent Zach Ertz, who's going to get the majority of the work early on, and Rondale Moore, and new wide receiver Marquise Brown. And AJ Green was re-up there, so he's going to get work. So even though DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to be playing for the first 6 games, there are a bunch of pass catchers in that offense who are going to take targets away from Trey McBride. So he's not stepping into like a Pat Fryermuth role last year, where Fryermuth was basically the tight end 1 by week 5. I think Zach Ertz is going to be their tight end 1 for the entire season. And then next year we see Trey McBride be their tight end 1. But even then, I think, upside of a tight end 8, which is good. But you literally don't have a single tight end rostered. Gonna have to grab a couple in our August free agent draft. Well, do you know who the free agents are? Because list a few. It might be better for you to just wait for that free agent draft. But at the end of the day, Tony for McBride isn't terrible. It's decent value. I personally would just be shooting for either getting a lesser cost veteran who should perform around the same area as a Trey McBride when Trey McBride is getting the full role in Arizona. Plus, if you can get Mo Alley Cox and a second and a third for Tony or something like that, that seems more enticing to me than Trey McBride. But I don't hate Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride is fine. But you know me, I'm a Jelani Woods guy. Rojo, who's going to be the starting running back in Atlanta this year? I just don't believe they're going to run Cordarrelle Patterson the same way. He really wore down last year. He will get touches. But who's going to be their number 1 running back with The Rock? Well, they just released Jeremy McNichols today, which means Tyler Algiers has even less competition for touches in that backfield. I think it's got to be Tyler Algiers. The Falcons are already holding out Cordarrelle Patterson from practicing right now in the middle of the offseason to keep him fresh for the year, which doesn't bode well straight off the rip. But Tyler Algiers, young, fresh legs, coming in, I think they're going to use him. A lot. I don't know if he's going to be used in the same role as a Cordarrelle Patterson was last year. I do not project that at all. I think he's going to be used in the role that Mike Davis was used last year, plus some more rushing. I don't know how much of a pass catcher Tyler Algiers is. I'd have to look that up, and that's frankly something that we're going to be doing a video on very soon, is doing some backfield breakdown videos for some of these teams with new additions to their backfield, whether that's through free agency or the draft. But I also do not believe that they're going to be running Cordarrelle Patterson the same way. I also believe that he wore down last year. Look at what he was doing in your fantasy playoffs. Not anything close to what he was doing in the regular season. So, yeah, I think it's going to be Tyler Algiers. Alex, does rookie running back Isaiah Pacheco have any upside in 2023 and beyond? Yeah, we don't like CEH. I believe Ronald Jones is on a 1-year deal. I'm checking that right now. Look at Darrell Williams. Was a depth running back piece, and he ended up being a very valuable fantasy running back for them. Finished as a low-end RB2 last season, and then went on to get the contract with Arizona. And I know, Alex, you love Darrell Williams, and Isaiah Pacheco has more athletic upside than Darrell Williams. Isaiah Pacheco has more athletic upside than a Derek Gore. He has more athletic upside than, for like straight line speed at least, than a CEH. And again, Rojo is going to be... Did I say Damian Williams? I meant Darrell. My bad. But Ronald Jones isn't going to be there all that much longer. We don't believe in CEH. Isaiah Pacheco is there. Isaiah Pacheco, for what it's worth, is signed for the next 4 seasons. CEH is signed through 2023, and then he's a free agent in 2024. Ronald Jones is on a 1-year deal. Derek Gore has 1 more year on his deal. And then Isaiah Pacheco is there through the 2025 season. Now, I would put a whole lot of money, like Antonio Brown, whole lot of money on them drafting some more running backs, them adding another running back through free agency. But there's a chance that Isaiah Pacheco works into that Derek Gore role as soon as 2023. There's a chance that he becomes their Darrell Williams of the future. So yeah, I like Isaiah Pacheco. I do. There are worse dart throws to make in rookie drafts for running backs, for sure. And you should be able to get him for cheap. And yeah, Rojo, Pacheco can play. I agree. And yeah, Damian Williams. If I said Damian Williams, I was mistaken. I meant Darrell. I do that all the time. I apologize. I'm trying to be better at. But yeah. What are your thoughts on the Packers running backs long term? I mean, A.J. Dillon to the moon. A.J. Dillon to the moon. He's going to be their running back of the present and future moving forward. A.J. Dillon, one of the most electric and steady and efficient running backs of the last few seasons. He is getting up there in age. He's 27 years old, I believe. And but he is signed there through the 2023 season. So he's got another... Am I reading that wrong? Oh no, Aaron Jones is signed there through the 2024 season. Through the 2024 season. Now, the cap hits get to a point where in 2024 they can cut him and save $12 million on the cap, and he will be 30 by that point. That might be worth it for them. So Aaron Jones might really only have 2 more years left. But if that's the case, A.J. Dillon to the moon. And regardless of what happens with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon to the moon. Because, excuse me, A.J. Dillon's just that good. He's a beast of a running back who's faster than he looks, playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's not bad at catching passes. He's really not. For a bigger back, you think of guys like Derrick Henry, who barely catch passes. A.J. Dillon can catch passes. And honestly, with the pass catchers currently on the Packers offense, I mean, it's headlined by rookie Christian Watson, who is a question mark. High upside question mark, but a question mark. Alan Lazard, Amari Rodgers, who is slower than Nick. If you were listening to the pod yesterday, or the live stream yesterday, on any of you members, Nick is the fastest man alive. Yeah, I mean, with the pass catchers that Aaron Rodgers is going to be dealing with, Aaron Jones is going to get a ton of passes thrown his way. He might be working as the de facto number 3 wide receiver in this offense. I know Tunyon is there. He's going to get work too. But A.J. Dillon's going to catch passes in this offense. He is. He is. And in terms of long-term, some of these other Packers running backs, I mean, they did bring in Tyler Goodson this past year, or this past NFL draft, who is a pass-catching specialist running back. So if they bring him along slowly on their practice squad or as a depth running back, learning behind Aaron Jones to do what Aaron Jones, albeit to a lesser extent, 2 years from now, once they cut Aaron Jones, I could see that happening. Kylan Hill looks like the first and second down replacement for an A.J. Dillon. I don't know how much of a pass catcher Kylan Hill is, but he is a bigger back, bigger body type back. So if anything happened to A.J. Dillon, they would probably elevate a guy like Kylan Hill to come in and take the goal line work away from Aaron Jones, who they might be trying to keep healthy as a aging 27-year-old running back. So I mean, I like the Packers running backs long term. Aaron Jones should be a factor for this team for the next 2 seasons. AJ Dillon is going to be a guy for the next, I mean, I would say 6, 7, 8. Because as soon as Aaron Rodgers goes, this team turns into a rushing team led by AJ Dillon. As soon as Aaron Rodgers goes, which could be sooner than the 3-year extension that he got, he has talked about, the next stage in his, not his career, the next stage in his life, pretty candidly. And so we could see Aaron Rodgers, play for this year, maybe next year, and then call it quits before the end of his contract. At which point, AJ Dillon to the moon again, even without Aaron Rodgers, because he's going to be getting all the work, because AJ Dillon will have probably moved on at that point too. So yeah, man, I love AJ Dillon. Both Nick and I really like Aaron Jones in redraft this year. We have him down in our top 12 rankings as running back 10, I believe, for AJ Dillon. So we like the Packers running backs long term. And if you have taxi squads and Kylan Hill is out there or Tyler Goodson is out there, I would see about adding one of these guys or maybe even both of these guys if you have the taxi squad to stash them on, or the large benches with empty spots to stash them on for the next few seasons, to see what they end up doing. Now, there's a chance that Tyler Goodson just gets cut outright, but Kylan Hill probably won't be. So that would be the priority for me if you're looking at the depth running back addition for the Green Bay Packers. I would prioritize Kylan Hill, but the Tyler Goodson does project like a pass-catching running back of the future once Aaron Jones goes down. So there you go. CXK, the TEs in our free agent draft. OJ Howard, who got some bad news today. Apparently he does not look anything like Dawson Knox out there from an athletic standpoint. So all the worry about OJ Howard taking away targets from Dawson Knox, probably just off-season speculation. I'm still all in on Dawson Knox. You got Troutman there. I like Troutman. You got Mo Alley Cox there. I like Cox. Pause. You got who else here? And then it's just a bunch of guys. But hey, you got Dan Bellinger there. I like Dan Bellinger for this year. You got Hayden Hurst there, who should play that CJ Uzoma role for the Bengals this year. So I like that. If Gronk doesn't come back, Cameron Brate is the tight end 1 for Tom Brady. We expect Gronk to come back, so I wouldn't be going all in on that. But then Tanyan is there. Tanyan, my favorite tight end sleeper for the entire 2022 NFL offseason, has been Tanyan, followed by Mo Alley Cox. And we've been saying all offseason that we were probably one season too early on Troutman. And this could be the year where we see Troutman ascend to, borderline top 12 option. So honestly, bro, I would wait. But I would be shopping Kadarius. But I would wait. I wouldn't try to shoehorn Kadarius into tight end like Trey McBride, especially if you can get, if you can land Tanyan and Bellinger, if you can land Tanyan and Mo Alley Cox. Even if a couple of those other guys, you get outbid for a couple of those other guys, if you can get Troutman or Bellinger or Hurst and Bellinger, you should be able to not compete, but at least start to fill out your tight end depth chart. Those other guys I wouldn't be sold on for this year. Hunter Long is an intriguing tight end prospect, especially since Mike Gesicki is only on a 1-year deal there. So as soon as next season, with all the money that Miami is giving out to other players and other positions, they could be shoehorned into just finally elevating Hunter Long in year 3. And as far as developmental prospect tight ends go, he's not a bad bet. Honestly, bro, yeah, I would wait. If you got this, I would wait until this free agency draft that you got, and I would prioritize Tunyon first, then Mo Alley Cox, then Troutman, and if you can get one of those guys and Dan Bellinger, I'd feel really good about that. Because Dan Bellinger, reports are that he's already working with the first team in New York. He should be dealing with a better quarterback situation in year 2. If there's one guy that reminds me of early season Dawson Knox, it's Dan Bellinger. High RAS, going to a team coached by Brian Daboll. I mean, the storyline is there. It took Dawson Knox 2 to 3 years to be a tight end 1 in the league, and it might take Bellinger the same amount of time, but a high RAS tight end with basically nobody else on the roster. The only other person on the roster for the New York Giants for tight ends is Ricky Seals-Jones, and I think some guy named Austin something. But yeah, I mean, I like Bellinger. So if you can get any combination of Tunyon, Mo Alley Cox, or Troutman, and get Bellinger on the back end, I would feel really good, or I would feel a lot better about going into the season with that tight end room than even just a Trey McBride. So I think that's the smart way to go. But still, put Kadarius Toney on the trade block, see what you can get. Oh, yo, you mean Damian Williams and ATL? I forgot that they signed Damian Williams, but even so, I don't project Damian Williams to beat out Tyler Algiers. Damian Williams couldn't beat out Khalil Herbert last year. And I think the same situation could happen here with Tyler Algier. So, the guy's Tyler Algier for me, and it's not even close. But as for what we're expecting from Damian Williams, if Tyler Algiers goes down, I'm expecting Damian Williams to look like Mike Davis did last year, which is a very unexciting running back getting an RB2 workload and not doing much with it. Yeah. Hunter, why would Green Bay extend Aaron Jones so far out into the future knowing what they have in Dillon? I don't think they knew what they had in Dillon. Didn't they extend Aaron Jones prior to last season? They didn't do that this season, I don't believe. But I don't think they knew what they had in Dillon. I think they speculated that they had something in Dillon. But, yeah, I think they found out what they had in Dillon when Aaron Jones went down and A.J. Dillon exploded for 100-something yards and 2 touchdowns. And then carried the rock and carried the load for them over the next 2 games while Aaron Jones came back from that hand injury. So, yeah. I mean, when they drafted A.J. Dillon, everybody thought the Packers were crazy. Everybody was like, look what you have in Aaron Jones. Why do you need A.J. Dillon, who doesn't even look like that great of a prospect? We were wrong. A.J. Dillon's that dude, but so is Aaron Jones. I think they would extend Aaron Jones also to keep Aaron Rodgers happy. I mean, they re-signed Aaron Jones when Aaron Rodgers was still threatening to leave on the Pat McAfee show every other Tuesday. Like, yeah, I think that was an appeasement move for Aaron Rodgers just as much as it was them just trying to solidify their running back core long term with question marks on Dillon because they didn't know what they had in Dillon at the time. Alex, Foster Moreau or Dan Bellinger or Troutman in the 22nd round. I like Foster Moreau. It's not out of these 3 guys. It's not Foster Moreau, because Foster Moreau, he's playing behind an incumbent number 1, and we're hoping that he goes elsewhere and is given that number 1 role, but that's not guaranteed. The team could re-up him and just have him play behind Darren Waller for the foreseeable future, or he could go to another team and split work or play behind another incumbent there. There's no guarantee that Foster Moreau sees the full workload for any team, even when he's up for contract and gets a deal in free agency. I would love to see it as a long-term fan of Foster Moreau, high RAS tight end who's just been stuck behind an even higher RAS tight end for his entire career, but he's young and has shown flashes for sure. But Dan Bellinger, high RAS, we just spoke about it. High RAS tight end with nobody ahead of him. Now it might take him a few years, but he has higher athletic upside than Troutman, and less. I want to say less competition. For year one, I would say Troutman, but for their entire career, I think I gotta say Dan Bellinger. I do. Very little competition in the tight end room in the New York Giants tight end room. They have to try to unlock Kenny Golladay so he's not just playing decoy out there at wide receiver. They still have Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson and Sterling Shepard. So there's target competition in New York. But as the long-term replacement for the guy that they just let go of in Evan Ingram, with just as much athletic upside as Evan Ingram, with hopefully less drop issues, I think I'm going Dan Bellinger. I do. I like Troutman. I do, but he has an RAS in the high 8s, which puts him around Cole Kmet, who I like as well. But, I mean, Dan Bellinger has an RAS right around Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce and Dawson Knox and TJ Hawkinson and the Dallas Goedert. I mean, those are the guys that athletically Daniel Bellinger comps to. And we can't say that for Troutman. We can say that for Foster. But there are just concerns with Foster that we don't have with Dan Bellinger. So I think I got to go Dan Bellinger there. And Julio Jones is still available, but I almost don't care. He's been one of my favorite wide receivers over the course of his career. I can't tell you how many teams I had Julio Jones on in the 2010s. But, I mean, the time has come for him to not be on anybody's roster anymore. I'm in a rebuild, in a 30-man roster rebuild. I have him on my team. And I honestly, like, depending on where he goes, I'm outright dropping him from my squad in favor of some developmental young piece who might not pan out. That's kind of where I am on Julio Jones. Basically, unless he goes to, like, the Packers or the Colts, I don't see Julio Jones having much value. I don't. And CXK, hey, you're very welcome. I'm glad I could help you out with respect to that. We are at 1 hour and 45 minutes. So y'all want to mock with me? Do one mock real quick. I got a redraft mock set up here. 12 team, half PPR. I am throwing the sleeper link in the chat. Let me pull this up here on my screen. It's going to cut off the chat a little bit there. Let me bring it down a little bit too, so it's not in front of that logo. And there we go. Yeah, it's mock time, Slim. Let's do this. I think this is the first time that we've mocked in a regular stream. In a stream that was not a members-only stream. So come on in. We'll wait around for about 5 minutes to see if anybody who trickles in wants to mock with us once, and then we'll call it a day. we'll call it a day. And yes, Hunter, I can absolutely put it in Discord. I put it in the wrong. Hold on. Here we go. So join in. I see Alex in here. I'm holding down the 10th spot. Again, this is a redraft mock, half PPR, 12 team, no kickers, no defense because in mocks like this, it just ends up being the last 2 rounds of the draft, which feels like a wasted exercise at this point in the off season. Even though obviously it's important to factor those positions in when you're playing with those positions in redraft, but for right now, I'm leaving them out. But Hunter, you see that in the Discord? And we got 8 people in here right now. We got 8 people. I expect there to be at least 6 of y'all in this mock draft with me. Let me, if y'all are in the Discord, it's in the general tab of the general part of the channel. So you can find it there. It is also in the chat here. Let me pin this. That link is pinned, so you can find it right there. It should be right on your screen. All right, we got Hunter in here. Nemo Trees, man, I love that name. Love that name. We got the usual suspects. Let's get a few more people in here, man. Let's get a few more people and we can start this off. All right, I'm gonna wait for another minute. It's 7:47. Once it hits 7:48, we're pressing start. I see you, Hunter, with the 101. CXK, you're in here. All right. Wait until the clock hits 7:47 or 7:48. It's 7:47 right now. Last chance. Last chance before I start this, and Hunter starts us off at the 101. Join the draft room or forever hold your peace. There we go. 7:48. We're starting this mock. There we go. Hunter, you are on the clock. Jonathan Taylor. All right. You got some bots. Are you going robust running back again, Alex? There you go, Jamar Chase. All right. What we doing, man? Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. All right. I feel like every single time I do a mock with y'all, I end up picking Steph Diggs in the first round. So let's just stick with that. Stay consistent with y'all. Najee Harris. And who you taking on the turnaround? Who? CeeDee Lamb. All right. Travis Kelce goes. I think here I got to go Mike Evans. And Nick isn't here to to snipe me on him. We both have him at wide receiver 6. So getting him after as wide receiver 7, that's technical value. We like that. Nemo, I think that's slim, right? Justin Jefferson, Alvin Kamara, good start. A little bit worried about Alvin Kamara and just his own legal issues that he's working his way through. But if he is cleared and sees the field, I think he deserves that spot. I do. Alex, you got Javonte. All right. The only thing I am a little bit worried about Javonte for this year, because he had insane efficiency last year, and he's just an insanely efficient running back. I get that. But he did split work evenly with Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon came out and said this past offseason after he was re-signed that there's no way that he's laying down for that RB2 role. Like, he's going for that RB1 role in Denver. He's trying to relegate Javonte Williams to RB2, and not a lot of running backs are good enough to do that. But Melvin Gordon was RB18, I believe, to Javonte Williams' RB17, so they finished right behind each other. So with that split workload, I do think people are overdrafting Javonte Williams slightly. Would rather have Barkley, would rather have Fournette, and would rather have Aaron Jones. So you do have to. I love Javonte for 2023 and beyond. For 2022, I do think he's just slightly overvalued based on hype. The hype is deserved for the long term, but in the short term, his ceiling is just capped by having Melvin Gordon there. If Melvin Gordon gets injured, Javonte Williams to the moon, but we don't predict injury here. So you do have to worry about that with Javonte Williams. Hunter, you got Mark Andrews and Pat Mahomes. Look at that start for Hunter. Jonathan Taylor, Mark Andrews, Patrick Mahomes. I like that start. Look at Alex redeeming himself with the T. Higgins pick. I like that T. Higgins pick. The only thing is now you got 2 Bengals wide receivers. Now both of them should finish in the top 12. But let's hope you in round 4 or 5 you pick up Joe Burrow or something like that for that stack. Like your running backs there, Slim, with Kamara and Gibson. And I am on the clock here. Let me bring this up. There is only one running back here that we all project to be an RB1, and that's James Conner. So I'm going to go James Conner and hope that he stays healthy for the first time in his entire career for the whole season. And then I plan on sniping Alex for the Darrell Williams pick late in the draft. So Alex, you have been warned. CXK got Najee Harris and CeeDee Lamb. Both great young players. Who you going with at the turn? Brees. Okay. Yes, yo, Slim, I think I remember seeing you with that pick on the Discord. Keenan Allen, okay. Now, Nick had Keenan Allen at wide receiver 11. I had Mike Williams at wide receiver 11. We split hairs on which Chargers wide receiver to have ranked as a wide receiver 1. He went for the consistency. I went for the upside. I have no problem with anybody ranking Keenan Allen in their top 12. He's basically been around 10 or wide receiver 10 or 12 for the past few seasons, and his efficiency shouldn't be going anywhere. He should still be a lock for 140, 150 targets. All right. Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, James Conner. Not going quarterback. That's another guy here I expect to be a wide receiver 1 in 2022, Michael Pittman. So I'm going with my guy Pittman. If you've been in the members only mocks with us doing them, you know that I've been a fan of Pittman. The ADPs in Sleeper are still a little wonky. So until they fix them, you can still capitalize on just the misrepresentation of player values in the Sleeper's ADP. Players like Michael Pittman should not be down that low. You shouldn't be able to draft, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You shouldn't be able to. Keenan Allen, I believe, is a little bit of a value here. So I do like that pick. Either one of the Chargers wide receivers I like as a pick there. Slim, you're welcome. All right, Josh Jacobs. Okay. Solid running backs. Even if Kamara doesn't come back. Having Antonio Gibson and Josh Jacobs, both people that the fantasy community is relatively low on. I mean, I feel happy having those guys as my running back 2 and running back 3. And Alex, you're picking up another running back with some question marks. J.K. Dobbins coming back from that torn MCL and ACL. And not being a pass-catching running back. The Ravens don't pass to their running backs. That is something to worry about with J.K. Dobbins. But from a pure efficiency on the ground standpoint, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more efficient and athletic running back in the NFL. So there's a lot to like about J.K. Dobbins. But I do think somewhat we have to temper our expectations for him, because on top of him being returning from an injury, Gus Edwards is a lock for 700 yards in that offense every year. Oh, man, Hunter, look at the value you're getting at wide receiver. Going Jonathan Taylor, Mark Andrews, Patrick Mahomes. I was a little bit worried you weren't going to be able to fill out your wide receiver core there, but getting DJ Moore and Cortland Sutton, man, I mean, that's good value. Where are we going with it, Alex? Is this where you get that Joe Burrow stack? Allen Robinson, I like it. I like it a lot. Prior to last season, the lost season for Allen Robinson, he finished as wide receiver 12 in back-to-back seasons with Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles as his quarterbacks. So Allen Robinson should, he's playing for the first time in his career as the number 2 in his offense. And playing with the best quarterback of his career and the best offense of his career. There's a lot to like about Allen Robinson. A lot to like. All right, I'm up on the clock. And again, Nick had Keenan Allen as his wide receiver 11. I had Mike Williams, so I'm just going to continue to hammer on these wide receivers and feel good about my wide receiver core. And go for a hero RB approach. CXK picking up the stack. I like that. That's an underrated stack. Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert. I like that. All right. Since y'all know me, I punt the tight end position in redraft. I think I got to pick up my running back 2 here. The only thing is, in this range, there's not a lot of guys that I absolutely love. I mean, look at the top of the rankings here. CEH, Damian Harris. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with the guy that we were just talking about, and AJ Dillon. Might be a little bit of an overdraft, but if anything happened to Aaron Jones, league-winning upside, and even without anything happening to Aaron Jones, should be one of the more effective running backs on the ground this year. And with a team that is lacking for talent around Aaron Rodgers, he should pick up a lot of work. And this is a point that Nick makes a lot in Green Bay as it gets colder, as we start seeing some snow games. AJ Dillon will be used more. Slim picking up Miles Sanders. All right. Alex, I like that Marquise Brown pick. Garrett Wilson. Is that the first rookie wide receiver off the board? And Brandon Cooks. Love that Brandon Cooks pick. Garrett Wilson could be a little bit hit or miss in his first season. But, starting off with DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton, and Brandon Cooks, all values where you drafted them, I believe. Alex, you better not. Oof. Man, hey. Alex, I'm going to kick you out of here. No more one-on-one team reviews for Alex. It's going to be tough once I'm in actual leagues with y'all. When we do our drafts, man, y'all know all the players I love. And same with Nick. You guys are going to be sniping us left and right. Slim, loved that Darnell Mooney pick. For 2022, it's Darnell Mooney to the moon. If I was going wide receiver here, considering I just got sniped on Rashad Bateman, I was probably going to be looking at Darnell Mooney. Can't do that anymore. So, talk about sniping me, man. Damn. Yeah, these wide receivers. That was the last wide receiver I absolutely loved. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. Going Tony Pollard. Might be a little bit high for Tony Pollard, just like it was probably a little bit high on AJ Dillon. But they're both guys that I like, and I don't know if they were going to get back to me. So I had to take them where I had to take them. And they are both high upside guys. If anything happens to the incumbent number ones in their offense, and Hunter, we want to do a Dynasty startup with you guys at some point. But I think we are going to start with redraft in year 1. So we just get 1 year under our belts. And just because, I I love Dynasty more than any other format in fantasy football. My love for fantasy football when I found out about Dynasty went from here to like ceiling. You know what I mean? But I think we're going to start with redraft, maybe a guillotine league, maybe a zombie league, and then maybe year 2 we move into Dynasty. Maybe 2023 off season we move into Dynasty. So you might have to wait for Dynasty for these members only leagues, but we'll still have fun in redraft. We'll still have fun exploring the zombie and guillotine league formats. All right, I don't have a quarterback. Who are the quarterbacks here? Can I create any stacks? Yeah, I mean, I can get a Tom Brady stack or a Matt Ryan stack. I'm going to continue to wait on wide receiver. Really don't love these running backs here. Who's available in the wide receiver room with 19 seconds left to go. We were just talking about Devin Singletary. Don't love the pick there. Was a little bit pressed for time. Gonna see how it works out. Honestly, if CXK hadn't sniped me on Rachaad White, probably would have gone Rachaad White there. But thanks for that, CXK. Appreciate it, man. And CXK, you if you're a member, you're in the league for free. It is a members only thing. Unfortunately, you can't just open it up to everybody. But if you are a member, just by membership dues alone, you've paid your league entry fee. Why you gotta be so vengeful, Slim? Come on now. Snipe for a snipe, eye for an eye. Which way you going now, Hunter? You picking up another running back to pair with Jonathan Taylor? Okay. Again, I like Ramondre Stevenson, but I do think he is slightly capped for 2022. In 2023, I do believe it's Ramondre Stevenson to the moon. That Hunter Renfrow pick is a one of the safer picks and one of the less flashy picks you can make. But just because Devontae Adams is there doesn't mean, and Darren Waller is healthy, doesn't mean that Hunter Renfrow isn't going to be at least a low-end wide receiver too. I still think he can get there. He is going to be targeted a lot. It's one of Derek Carr's favorite targets in a position of the field where Derek Carr loves to attack in the short to intermediate pass game there. So I like Hunter Renfrow. And Alex going 2 QB here. All right. Melvin Gordon. Why you gotta keep man. Why you gotta keep sniping me, man? Slim, you're breaking my heart. This is an area of the draft where There are a couple of wide receivers that I am liking coming up here, but I think I got to see if I can solidify my running backs with one more guy before I make a move like that. And I know everybody is in love with Kenneth Walker. Actually, you know what? Nah, I don't know if I can do that. I know everybody's in love with Kenneth Walker, but last year Rashad Penny did it for a few games. He like did that for a few games. He was the running back 2 overall for a few games. So completely different offense this year. Should be running the ball more than passing the ball with the quarterbacks that they have. I think this is a safe point to be drafting a guy like Rashad Penny. I'm not going to be relying on him as anything more than an RB5, but he technically does have league winning upside. Slim, if we could trade it in mocks, that would open up a whole new can of worms. I'll get to the chat after I draft. What do we got? 4 more picks left. So, yeah, there are a couple of wide receivers I really like here. You got Allen Lazard, who should be the de facto number 1 for the Green Bay Packers here, available here. Russell Gage, who should be the de facto number 2 for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, I already have a Bucks wide receiver. I don't have a Packers wide receiver. So I'm going to go Allen Lazard and hope that he does end up being the number 1. And getting the number 1 for Aaron Rodgers in the 10th round as my wide receiver 5. I feel pretty good about that. CXK, I love that Christian Kirk pick. He was a guy that I was looking at too. I don't know if you will feel great about having Marquez Valdez-Scantling on your squad at the end of 2022 if you do draft him in any leagues. There's some offseason hype on him having some mind meld with Patrick Mahomes, but we hear about these type of things every single season. I mean, we saw him with the Packers with one of the best quarterbacks of the last generation basically do a whole lot of nothing. So just because he goes to the Kansas City Chiefs and there's some fluff pieces about him in the offseason doesn't mean that you should be all in on a guy like MVS. And I know in the 11th round, or in the 10th round, that's not technically going all in on a guy, but I mean, I do feel like at that point there are other guys that have more upside than him. I mean, Russell Gage, the de facto number 2 for Tom Brady, is still on the board. I think I'd rather have Sky Moore if I want to be tied to that Kansas City offense, even in year 1, than an MVS. Alex, that late James Cook pick might end up working out for you. Slim picking up Jameson Williams. I mean, if he can come back, there was just a report from the coaching staff saying they do not expect him back for week 1, even though he was saying he expects to be ready week 1. I am more inclined to believe the coaching staff than I am the player. But if Jameson Williams can come back by week 8 and be an effective player for the Detroit Lions, hey, it could end up working out for you. And look at Alex sniping Sky Moore. There you go. Hunter, your draft is strong. I don't know what you're going to be doing at running back behind Jonathan Taylor. Love your squad outside of depth RB. But if I'm at a spot where I have 2 of the best, I mean, one of the best tight end prospects or players this year, and arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't know if I'm hedging my bets, even if I can get an Alberto and a Derek Carr late. I think at that point, the smart move would be to go running back. But I do like Alberto and Derek Carr a lot. Russell Gage sniping me again. I sense a trend. And my stack candidate is gone in Tom Brady. But I do have Michael Pittman. And I am just going, even though y'all know my thought process, I am going to bet on you guys not drafting Matt Ryan over the next 4 picks. What do I got? 5 running backs, 5 wide receivers. You know what? Just gonna take my guy here. I don't believe in you guys leaving me a stack available. Y'all would have sniped me. And fair enough, Hunter. That's definitely a way to go about it if it is a real league. Kind of painting yourself into a corner and then using a trade opportunity to get out of it. That is definitely one way to go about it. All right. I was looking at Cole Kmet. I was, but you made my job easier because that just means I just get to go Tunyon here. Cole Kmet and Tyler Algiers. I see that stack you got. It's not necessarily a stack, but you got the RB1 and the RB2 in the Falcons depth chart. So I at the running back position. So I like that. CXK. Getting Cordarrelle and Algier. A very low cost backfield to lock down. Irv Smith. All right. I like that too. Irv Smith is one of the only low RAS tight ends that I really do like. His RAS is 4.71. I only know that off the top of my head because I'm a degenerate. But yeah, his RAS is 4.71. A far cry from a RAS of 9. Technically, his relative athletic score is below the average relative athletic score for tight ends, which is, I believe, 4.8. But despite that, I mean, look at the role he's got ahead of him. Look at the role he's got ahead of him. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen at age 33, and then Irv Smith. That's the target hierarchy with a Kirk Cousins offense who's criminally underrated every year, and now they got a coaching staff that should be opening it up for the first time in Justin Jefferson and Irv Smith's careers. So, like that pick. Look at Alex. Alex, why you got to snipe me on Darrell Williams when I said that I was going to snipe you on Darrell Williams? That's just not fair, man. And Raheem Mostert and Nyheim Hines, Hunter. I like that Hines pick. Raheem Mostert, not so much. But I mean, at the end of the draft, what other choices are there? So that's not terrible. Gerald Everett, great pickup there for you, Alex. If you're a punt and tight end like I usually do. Jameis Winston. I mean, a few years ago, he was quarterback 3, even though he threw 30 interceptions. Jameis Winston has rare upside. I don't know if we see it because he's not YOLO Winston anymore. He's more conservative from a passing perspective, different offense and all that. But he does have insane upside. He does. And because the tight end, not class, but the rest of the tight ends left on this board, there are tight ends that I like, that where if this was a real league, I could, if I needed a tight end, pick one up off the waivers wire. And Logan Thomas, who is kind of a forgotten man at the tight end position. David Njoku, who has much less target competition, even though his quarterback should stink in year 1. Hayden Hurst, who's walking into that CJ Uzoma role, and he's a better tight end than CJ Uzoma. Mo Alley Cox, who actually, I got the Matt Ryan stack. I was going to talk my way into I should draft a quarterback here just to solidify the quarterback room. But if Tanyan doesn't cut it, Mo Alley Cox should. And I got the stack with him and Pittman. So that's a pretty easy stack to acquire. If you can get Pittman early, a pretty easy stack to acquire is Ryan and Mo Alley Cox late. I like you picking up Trevor Lawrence with your last pick there, CXK. That's a good hedge against Jalen Hurts if Jalen Hurts doesn't fire or gets injured as a rushing quarterback. Can happen. So I like you hedging your bets there. And yeah, you got that. Do you have a stack? With Alvin Kamara? Yeah. Okay. I like that stack. I like that stack a lot. What's the update on Kamara? We don't really have one. Last I heard, the person that got beat up in that whole ordeal was threatening to release video that he had acquired. Which, as we all know, once video gets released to the general public on any happenings with regards to NFL players being in hot water, it usually means a suspension is incoming. Or at the very least. So you can take that with a grain of salt. That is just a rumored report that I did pick up somewhere. I don't even remember where I picked it up, but it is something to factor in when you're drafting or thinking about Alvin Kamara's value. There is a chance that because his hearing got pushed back, there is a chance that it just continues to get pushed back, and this is more of a Ezekiel Elliott in the season where he got suspended halfway through the year type of deal, where Alvin Kamara might be starting week 1, but by week 10, a suspension might have been thrown at him and he misses the last 7 games. So you do have to watch out for that as well. That is something that can happen, has happened to NFL running backs in the past. Case in point, Ezekiel Elliott. But there is also a chance that this whole thing gets thrown out altogether. So we'll let you guys know when we get an update on Alvin Kamara. As of right now, we have no concrete information. And Slim, get at me, bro. I'm not trading you Robert Tonyan. Come on now. But yo, thank y'all for mocking with us. Thank y'all for being in the chat. Thanks for putting up with just me for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Nick will be back with us next week once he's back from his trip to the Carolinas. But hey, I know some of y'all are fathers out there, so happy Father's Day to y'all over this weekend. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next week, Tuesday. Stay tuned for some members-only videos for you members. I will be putting out the first 2023 draft profile video. We will be having a Bijan Robinson video will be available for you guys at some point over the weekend. And come next week, that's when on Monday, that Hassan Haskins Julius Chestnut video will be dropping as well. So stay tuned for that. And more content to come. Next live stream, Tuesday, y'all already know. Have a great weekend. And Thanks for mocking, y'all. It's been fun.